From Columbia in high definition, this is WIS News 10 Awareness.
A new year means a fresh start, a chance to make changes that will last a lifetime. Whether it's fixing your finances, boosting your career, or getting healthy, putting those resolutions into action can take some work. Today we have a team of experts to arm you with the tools you need to help you make your New Year's resolutions stick. Thank you so much for joining us for Awareness. I'm your host, Megan Norman. It can be a tough road to financial freedom, but not impossible. Joining us today with more on the path to being debt-free is JJ Jenkins, an investment consultant. Thank you for being with us, JJ.
Thank you, Megan. My pleasure.
Now, with the holidays being over, we know a lot of people might have gone over budget, and the credit card statement comes in January, and they're saying, what do I do? Talk about how you make a budget and how you stick with that budget.
And Megan, you make up a good point. It is so difficult for people to stick with a budget, given, as you mentioned, the holiday season. The key is figuring out what is it that you have to pay, number one. Write it down. Create a financial spreadsheet. Create a worksheet to show what exactly are you paying for, because that's the key, number one. Then number two, figure out how much is your income. Can you really afford to take care of this debt? Because generally the problem we have is that the credit allows us to be what? Overextended.
Right.
So now our income is not overextended, our income remains the same, so now we have to figure out how we can align both our expenses and our income to have some type of financial security.
As they say, living within our means.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's very difficult, once again, as you mentioned, coming after the holidays. You know, it's amazing how society gears you towards spending more, but not saving more.
Right.
You know, so you can very easily take someone who's making $15,000 to $20,000 a year, and now they're living like they make $30,000 or $40,000. The same doesn't work for saving. So again, you have to develop a plan and stick with it, because a budget means sacrifice. It means discipline. And
priorities.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, and then sometimes when you're not living within your means or creating those priorities, then that's when you fall into debt.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And you have to avoid those malls, have to avoid those sales, because it's very easy to live beyond your means, because it made credit so easy for you to obtain. And you're like, okay, you know what, that's all right, I don't worry about it when the bill comes in.
Right.
And next thing you know, you have a humongous bill, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna pay for this.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So what are some ways to get yourself out of debt?
Okay, for one is tap the credit cards. That's one thing you have to do. I know it may be difficult, but maybe not all of them.
Hard.
It's hard. It truly is hard, but maybe you should limit yourself to maybe one or two credit cards. Maybe a MasterCard or a Visa, which has like a revolving credit. Try to avoid the credit cards that have almost a demand payment at the end of the month, like American Express, for example. So you really have to minimize the amount of credit cards you have, and maybe start going towards using debit cards, because debit cards is almost like using cash.
Right.
And that will definitely regulate your spending.
And what about paying off your limits at one time?
That's an excellent way to do it as well. If you can, do that, because on average, credit cards are charging you somewhere between 20 to maybe 30% annual interest. That's a lot of money, especially if you're carrying a big balance. If you can pay that off, that's a huge step in the right direction.
Now, is there something called good debt versus bad debt? For example, I was always told, well, student loans, that's a good kind of debt to have. Credit card debt, not so much. Is that true? Is that the case?
It is the case. Anytime you can invest in yourself, it's good debt, which is your education. Too much of the bad debt, credit cards, of course, is not good at all. And we fall into that trap again, as you probably recall back when we were in college, when it was so easy to get credit. So all of a sudden now you got out of college and you're sacked with all this extra debt that you weren't aware of, and now you do have it. So
you talked about investing in yourself. What are some other investments, you as an investment consultant, that you recommend for people on the entire spectrum?
Once you've determined what your expenses are, and you've eliminated your expenses, because the key to investing in yourself is having the resources to do so. If you don't have the resources, then it's a moot point. So one of the ways you can do it now is look at either furthering your education, number one, to mention that, looking at maybe making investments in the market, maybe making a major purchase like buying a home, or again, paying down some debt. So there's a couple of ways you can do things. So even creating a much more aggressive savings plan. So that's one way you can invest in yourself.
Okay, and then what about investments outside of yourself?
There's a great way to start doing that. Typically, if you want to start off with baby steps, and there's a couple of avenues you can pursue. One is looking at maybe mutual funds as an option. Mutual funds give you a broad array of investment options without taking too much risk. That's number one. Number two, if you are young enough or feel aggressive enough, you can actually go and start buying individual stocks. And once again, you have to figure out what your risk tolerance is in order to get into the investment field.
And finally, as we head into 2014, some general tips for people to stay on the right track, even though I know it's difficult sometimes to live within your means. You see all these commercials that try to tempt you. So what are some tips for people to just be financially free?
Oh, for one thing, turn off the TV, number one, if you can. But no, to be financially free, again, limit what you spend. Create that budget even before the holiday season and stick to it, number one. Number two, again, use your debit cards. Use cash, because once you pay for it, it's over and done with. And again, don't get caught up in the hype of the season. So that's...
Right. Well, and you see right here on this full screen, be realistic.
Yes.
Be practical.
Yes, yes.
Not idealistic.
And that's the hard part about it, because again, because of the availability of so much credit in the marketplace, people feel as though I'm entitled.
Right.
So they set unrealistic goals for themselves. So now what happens? Come January, February, like, oh my God, what do I do now?
Right.
And unfortunately, you get caught up in the financial trap.
Right, because there are so many consequences that come with that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So once again, between either forcing yourself to give up something you really want, or really or that you have, or just going without something. So.
All right, J.J. Jenkins, thank you so much for being with us.
I appreciate it. Thank you much.
When awareness continues, whether you're unemployed, underemployed, or feeling professionally stagnant, many use the new year to signal a career change. After the break, we have a life strategist with ways to help you climb up that corporate ladder. Whether you're looking for a job, a better one, or hoping to earn a promotion this year, there are things you need to do to be sure you're showcasing your best skills to make employers take notice. With more on how to boost your career is life strategist Karen Jenkins. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Karen, where do we start? There are so many people who are unemployed right now.
True.
Where do they start?
Well, for new timers or for people that are unemployed, you want to do an assessment of your actual skill set and really look deep and try to determine what are you passionate about. You don't want to, I mean, you may be forced to, but you really don't want to go work somewhere for 8 or 10 hours a day doing something that you absolutely hate. So when you find something that you're gifted at, you find your passion, those are the things that won't really feel like work, and you'll progress in those very quickly.
Now, how should you get started in pursuing that in terms of building your resume?
Building your resume, of course, is all about the jobs that you've had in the past. And one thing I will say about resume writing is when employers get those resumes, they have to have some way of deciphering which ones they will keep and which ones they won't. When you look at simple things like typographical errors, when you look at misspellings, when you look at things that aren't positioned right, those immediately go into file 13. And you could actually be the best candidate because you did not take that time to have a second set of eyes look at your resume and make sure that it's formatted correctly, it's grammatically correct. Right. Those things are very important.
Presentation's huge.
Exactly, in addition to the content.
Right. Now, should people send in paper resumes in the mail, email, digital? What's the best format, or is there one?
It really depends on the employer. If they say do it online, that's what you want to do. Because again, they're having to receive thousands and sometimes cases hundreds of resumes, and they don't want to get them in any other venue than the way that they ask for it. So whatever they ask for is the venue you want to do. You don't, if you had a lot of information, you don't want to have 4- and 5-page resumes. A 2-page resume, preferably front and back, would probably be the best. You may have to start dropping off some of your more or older jobs or something that may not be as relevant right now, but you want to make sure that you're making it in the venue that they're asking for.
Now, what's your best advice for someone going into an interview?
In an interview, you definitely want to be no less than 10 minutes before the scheduled interview. You want to make sure that you are very polished, and even if it's a job that doesn't require a suit, actually putting that suit or that dress on would make a difference for that person that says, okay, well, he or she didn't have to dress up this way, but you're putting that best foot forward. Make sure that you're manicured. If you're wearing polish, and I know that we have a lot of different polishes now, but you don't want to go to an interview with the wild blues and the blacks. If you wear piercings, you don't want to wear those. If you have a lot of tattoos, you want to cover those up, because employers are differentiating now, and they want to make sure that they're looking for certain things, and that doesn't mean that they won't hire you because of that. But if it happens to be one that may not be interested in those things, you don't want to knock yourself out.
And you said that this candidate could be one of thousands. So how do you make the best impression?
You definitely put your best foot forward. As far as you have 3 3 seconds to make an impression. So you want to make sure that you come in, you're dressed well, and the first thing you want to do is have that eye contact and have that firm handshake.
Firm.
Let's not do this. We can't do the, oh, you know, have the firm handshake, and that first impression goes a long way. You want to find something out about the employer. If you can come in and talk a little bit about them and show them that you've done some research on them and ask very pertinent questions and that shows I'm interested, I want to know a little bit more, but I took the time out to investigate, that also makes a big difference.
And maybe a simple question, but what about a thank you note?
Oh, always follow up with thank you. Not a thank you email, not a thank you verb. You want to say thank you at the end, but a handwritten note is probably one of the best things that you can do because everybody won't do that. And for me, I would have several in my portfolio, and let's say I'm traveling from the destination, I'm in the airport or whatever, I'm going to actually take notes and have my thank you note filled out right then because I've had, you know, a little bit of time to pass, but not too much that I can't forget what I wanted to point out.
But you pretty much send it immediately. You don't wait a week or 2 weeks.
Yes, I would say no less than 48 hours after you've had that interview.
Okay. And are there resources out there for people who feel underemployed?
There are, you know, unfortunately with the economic decline that we've had, when we looked at the number of jobs that were lost, there are other jobs that are coming in. You know, at this point in time, some people may need to face the fact that you may not go back into the exact same career that you left.
Right.
So you need to investigate, think outside the box. What am I gifted at? What is my talent? What is my gift? Can you actually turn that into a career? In some instances, some people, I never thought I would be self-employed ever, but I too got laid off. So when I got laid off and I could not find that job that I felt fit me and my skill set, I created my own job. And there are all sorts of resources, score.org, the SBDC, that if you're thinking about being self-employed now, if you've been out there that long, those are definitely free resources that you can use.
And with this economic climate, a lot of people are unemployed for months, even years on end. How do you avoid that discouragement? Maybe it's not unavoidable, but how do you soldier through that and continue to look?
Prayer. Lots and lots of prayer. And you know, it's about networking. And what people tell you, it's not necessarily what you know, sometimes it's who you know. We have to get out of that comfort zone. And unfortunately, just like nobody taught us about money, nobody really taught us about networking. And networking is really building a relationship. There's no difference in networking, building that relationship on a personal side than it is network on a business side. So if you meet someone, you're getting to know that person, you're finding out information about them, and it's not about what they can do for you. It's meeting them genuinely and then finding out, well, how can I help them? Because at the end of the day, if you help enough people get where they want to go, eventually all of them will turn around and help you get where you want to go.
Exactly, because networking is like a web.
Exactly.
It doesn't just start and end with one person.
Exactly, exactly. So you may be working and doing something and Bob knows Carol and Carol remembered you there and you were friends and you were a good person. And they say, you know, let me think about Mary. The other thing you have to remember is that if you're calling the employer, you're calling somebody today and they're thinking about you today and they have a job that comes up in 6 months. Well, if you have not had constant contact with that person, unfortunately, out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
And we get a little discouraged because it's like, wait a minute, remember I called you 6 months ago and I told you, well,
Doesn't
darling,
matter.
you know, you can imagine what you've been doing in the last 3 weeks. So what you can imagine in 6 months. You have to have that constant contact, whether it's a once a month phone call, it's an email every now and again, a letter or something to have that consistent contact so that when that opportunity does come about, they'll think of you.
All right. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you.
Great advice.
Thank you.
When awareness returns, you don't necessarily need a gym to get back in shape, but you do need a consistent routine if you want to make lifestyle changes. After the break, a personal trainer will show you some simple ways to stick to it and shed those pounds. Weight loss is a goal that many aspire to reach with the start of each new year, and gyms all over the country are full for the very first few weeks of the year, and then attendance and commitment dwindle, as we all know. We have Michael Thomas, a personal trainer, here with us to help you stay on track.
Sure.
Thank you for being with us, Michael.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we know we all set these elaborate goals for the start of the new year. I want to lose 20 pounds.
Sure.
But then after January goes by, people fall off. What are some good ways and simple ways for people to stay on track?
First thing I always tell people is to figure out the why, and let the why be the motivating factor that allow you to make really good decisions. And sometimes that motivation may be, I want to improve my health, I want to be around for my grandchildren or my children. Sometimes it's, I want to look better, I want to have more confidence, I want to have more energy. But you have to figure out what it is, why it is that you want to lose this weight, and then remind yourself often and to keep that at the forefront as you make the decisions. And one of the other things that I oftentimes tell people is think about how you're going to feel after the decision, because sometimes the decision to eat something feels good in the beginning.
Right.
And then as soon as we get done, it makes us feel like we failed.
The guilt.
So yeah, think about how I'm going to feel after the decision. And then if you do make a mistake, and oftentimes we will, when you're starting off new, let yourself off the hook really, really fast. Push the restart button and to get back on. It's not over just because you had one bad day or one bad meal.
Stick with it.
Stick with it.
Now, there are certainly the right ways and wrong ways to lose weight. What are some of the right ways? I know it includes nutrition.
Nutrition is a big part of it, but more than that is people call me oftentimes and they say, well, I'm in school, I work full time, and so oftentimes I tell them the first thing we have to do is get rid of the stress. It's almost impossible to lose weight if you're stressed. And stress brings on cravings, you don't have that feeling of control that you need. So we need to maybe carve out some time, get a really good plan. And then the second part of it, 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Sleep allows us to restore ourselves, and it gives us that optimism that we need moving forward to feel like that this is something I actually can do, and to actually believe in ourselves. So having enough sleep, getting rid of stress and enough sleep is a big part of it. Of course, nutrition, 7 to 8 glasses of water. 16 ounces I say before each meal. Breakfast, snack, lunch, another snack, and dinner. Usually it's the hydration. 5 to 7 servings of fruits and vegetables. 2 to 3 servings of lean protein. And then work really hard to reduce those processed foods that's in the bag, that's in the box. So, yeah.
Well, let's show viewers some good, simple exercises they can do. And this is mostly for beginners.
Sure. Okay. All right. We're going to start off with one of my favorites, and that's the squat. I love the squat because the legs and the glutes are big muscles, really easy to train and to get some definition. So the first thing I want to do is I want to show you kind of what's improper. So if you take a look at the knees, you can see all the pressures in the knees, all right? So that's not what you want. Now I'm going to remove that pressure out of my knees and put it in my hamstrings, my quadriceps and my glutes, simply by pushing the glutes all the way back. And see, now the pressure is no longer in the knees. It's actually in the quads and in the glutes where we want it. We're going to keep the chest up, feet are shoulder width apart, and we're just going to drive up, squeeze, and just continue that motion. And then the biggest thing is, as I told people, is that keep going the ones that hurt. Because all the ones that you did before the ones that hurt was just to get you to the point of the ones that hurt, because those are the ones that make you stronger. And those are the ones that build bigger muscles.
So push through the hurt.
Push through the hurt. Most people usually try to avoid the pain and say, that's enough.
So
sometimes you do need some support and accountability, someone to push you a little bit further.
Let's show them one more exercise.
One more exercise. Okay, we'll do an upper body exercise, and that's going to be the push-up, because it's one of my favorites, all right? All right, so starting out with the push-up, if you're doing them on your toes, you're squeezing the stomach, you're dropping the body low enough where the back of the arms are parallel to the ground, and you're just driving back up. If you're starting out as a beginner, just drop those knees, and we're doing the same exercise, squeezing, leaning forward, stomach is nice and tight, and we're driving straight up and driving straight back down. And again, we're pushing and just working through the pain. And you don't have to necessarily, you can do it in stages. And here's what's important, what I love about the body, is that anything we practice over and over and over again, we become really, really good at. So you have to just stay with it long enough till you're good at it. A little bit of repetition and some active friends go a long way. Active people have active friends. Plug into some groups, maybe some running clubs, some walking clubs, get some friends together, get your Facebook group, and get moving.
And very quickly, you talked about, the why. And the why should be a lifestyle change if you're looking to make a permanent change, right?
Definitely a lifestyle change. Again, really quick, 7 to 8 hours of sleep, plenty of fruits and vegetables, lean protein, get moving. We were never meant to be as sedentary as we are. So,
Great advice. Thank you so much, Michael Thomas.
Thank you.
When we come back, we'll have a final thought. Whatever your resolutions might be, it all begins with a plan. First, you need to make a conscious effort to make a change. If you're in debt, commit to getting out of it. If you're struggling to find a job, use the resources around you. If your waistline is holding you back, work it out. Change is possible, but it comes only when you put in the hard work. Whatever your goal, do it with all your might. Before we go, we leave you with what some people around the capital city are saying about their life goals. Until next time, I'm Megan Norman. This is Awareness.
A lot of people just don't think about it. On a day-to-day basis, we get so sidetracked and and we forget about those goals that we've had and those dreams that we've had. This question has always been around, so it's for people that want to confront it.
Before I die,
I would like to show more compassion.
I would like to own my own salon and spa and have children.
I want to move Columbia Children's Theater to Main Street.
It started in New Orleans in 2011 by an artist named Candy Chang. She was having a hard time coping with loss and was trying to find a way to express herself, so she leaned on the community for inspiration. So she basically did this on the side of an abandoned building overnight. It was an overnight sensation.
Before I die,
I would like to save as many people as I can, bring them into the kingdom of God.
It puts people in a weird place because they're thinking privately, yet they're compelled to act publicly. So it's very fun. You never know what somebody's going to write.
Before I die, I would like to have drinks with Bill Murray.
I want to have a long lunch with Patti LuPone after a matinee that I starred in with her.
There's a lot of issues, especially with the ones that are plaguing the city right now, that are creating quite the buzz, that are really dividing people. And the reason I wanted to bring this project here, especially to Main Street, is to kind of bring people together. We all have desires, dreams, and goals. We're all shapes, sizes, colors, different backgrounds, different religions. Somebody that opposes your views may want the exact same thing you want.
I would say cure world hunger if I could.
I want to help Columbia become the best city it can in the Southeast.
Confront the question. Take it home with you. You never know, you might find something that you forgot along the way.